43 years old, and I'm gonna tell you a story from about 21 years ago. I'm sitting in a bar with my buddy, and he is really, really good socially. He's a natural socially, somebody who never had to learn how to be good socially. He just is good socially. And I said to him, what's the single most important distinction that you found makes a major, major difference in your results with people? You know, what is it that gets people to feel attraction for you or want to be around you or laugh at your jokes or find you to be compelling? And he said, Owen, to be honest with you, and this is a little bit counterintuitive, the single most important thing that makes a difference in my social results is whether I'm inside my head or outside my head. Now, I'm sitting there at 22, 23. I've got light autism at the time, untreated. And I'm thinking to myself, what does it mean to be inside your head or outside your head? I said to him, like, what do you mean in your head or out of your head? And he said, well, when you're in your head, you're micromanaging people's perceptions of you and you're trying to control them in these very, very subtle ways. And that's burning down your energy. But if you just forget about that and you sort of shift your awareness, the focal point of your awareness to outside your head, and then you're just flowing and you're not really thinking about what it is that you're doing, you're just letting it come to you. And there's sort of an unconscious process that's happening where you're just letting the energy move through you, and your awareness is out here rather than being stuck in here. Then what happens is that your voice expands and you become funnier and you become more charismatic and you become more authentic, more congruent. Your thoughts, words, and actions are aligned and you're just going with the flow. And so he told that to me, and I thought, what an interesting distinction. I would have thought maybe he had a magic pill that he could give me, a certain line or something specific to say. But I put that in my head very, very much because at the time, when I was trying to get better socially, I was very, very nerdy. And I would do things like go on the internet, and I'd go into different chat forums that would talk about how to improve socially. And it would say, you know, if you say this thing, that is a good thing to say. Try saying this or try saying this. And I would actually write them down and memorize them. And then I would kind of, you know, go to a bar club and I'd run out and I would just start saying them. And that was sort of my, magic pill to get myself going initially when I was learning to socialize. But what I found was once my buddy said that to me, I would just focus on getting outside my head. And it was funny at the time because I realized that on the nights that I did the best, I would begin my night by saying these rehearsed lines over and over and over, but over time, I wouldn't need them anymore. I just didn't need them because I'd be so much in the flow, I didn't care anymore. And I thought to myself, well, what is it that I could do to get it to where I'm that way naturally? I don't need to rely on going out and having something prepared to say. I could just start flowing and be somebody who's naturally socially successful. So that's the lead into today's live broadcast. I'm really, really happy to be here with you today. And today's live broadcast is going to be on getting outside your head, but also the importance of being present to the moment, and frankly, what failing to be present to the moment will cost you, because I would tell you that it is some of the greatest penalties in the world if you are unable to self-generate getting outside your head, if you're not able to self-generate that transcendent feeling. People take drugs, which fries their brains. It's disgusting and sad. It's funny to say, disgusting and sad. It's actually disgusting and sad what people are doing to themselves. People are fueled up on ego and need to live life through ego rather than just enjoying the moment. And that winds up becoming a prison in the person's head and costing them incredible problems. People wind up getting in fights on the street. I mean, there are so many different problems that people have as a result of just not being present to the moment. I think it costs you in so many different ways that you're just unaware of. So we're gonna be talking about that today. Now, as I'm leading into this, I'm gonna try to be very, very chill today. I'm trying to keep it calm. I'm trying to stay very, very chill. And the reason that I'm doing that is because we're sitting here, it's Wednesday night. Tomorrow's gonna be Thursday. And when Friday hits, I am going to completely explode, okay? I'm gonna explode on Friday. What do I mean by that, exploding on Friday? Well, what I'm gonna be doing is the very last event from a 6-month tour that I've been doing, and it's completely for free. Okay, so I've been doing this thing called the free tour, and it's basically been me touring all over the country, doing events about every 2 weeks for the past 6 months. It's been an incredible adventure. What an amazing adventure. My public speaking reached new heights. My teaching reached new heights. It was amazing to be out there meeting with people. Many of the videos are coming out from the tour. But if you want to attend the final date of this tour live, what you got to do right now, Los Angeles, California, right where we are right now, okay? We're up in the Hollywood Hills right now. We're going to be just a stone's throw away from where we're going to be doing the event. Los Angeles, California, December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It is a full 3-day free event. And I'm going to be there. The team's going to be there. I'm going to be going crazy. The team's going to be going crazy. If you go to www.selfhelpfreetour.com right now, you can get signed up. It is a full-on event that would normally cost thousands of dollars. I would urge you to fly in. If you're somebody who lives, if you live in LA, if you miss it, I don't even know what to tell you. You got to be there if you're in LA. But even if you're in San Diego, San Francisco, anywhere in California, anywhere in Nevada, anywhere in Arizona, make absolutely sure that you drive in. If you're in Oregon, Washington, just get in your car and drive down, okay? If you have nowhere to stay, come up to me in the event and I will yell out to the crowd, who can let this person crash on his couch or on his floor? I'll find somebody for you. If I can't find somebody for you, as long as you tell me on time, you can sleep in my place, okay? But I can always find somebody, so it's not gonna happen. But in theory, if I couldn't do it, you could crash with me, okay? That's www.selfhelpfreetour. We're gonna be going very, very deep on how to make a ton of cash. You wanna learn how? Go to Self Help Free Tour. We're gonna be talking about social results, how to get better socially, how to attract better people in your life, exactly how to do it, and talking in person so we can go really deep. And also how to get spiritually tapped in, how to be somebody who's incredibly happy. And this is gonna be the most cutting edge personal growth content that you can find anywhere, hands down. And it's gonna be the most incredible event of the year anywhere, hands down. So make sure, again, and it's for free. www.selfhelpfreetour.com. You're gonna be networking with incredible people. You're gonna be taking on the energy from me personally. You're gonna be changing your life, and you're gonna be having an experience that you're never gonna forget. So I'm really excited to meet you in person. There's gonna be hundreds of people there. Self Help Free Tour, LA, December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Gonna be awesome. And if for whatever reason you can't fly in, I've also got your back. Free course, www.higherpurposeprogram.com. In that course is the very, very best structured lessons that I never, ever post on social media. Those original gangster lessons that I never, ever post on social media. So if you want to get the original old school lessons that go so incredibly deep and that will blow your mind, you've got to be inside Higher Purpose Program. Even if you're coming to the event or you've been to a past event, make sure that you actually watch this. It is the very, very best lessons, the OG lessons, powerful principles of personal growth, how to get money, how to do better socially, how to get spiritually tapped in, higherpurposeprogram.com, highly structured, highly organized. Get in there right now. If 10 or 15K or 20K people watch this live broadcast over the years, make sure that 10 or 20K people get inside Higher Purpose Program. It's a no-brainer. You're gonna thank me once you're there. People thank me for Higher Purpose Program every day, all the time. It's a completely free course. Same kind of course I'd normally charge a couple $100 for, and it's right there completely for free, okay? So this is something that we've done so that you can get a free live education and a free course so that you can actually start learning this stuff. The reason why is because I like to go deep. I like to give very, very advanced lessons. So I like you to be caught up to speed, and I like to build community. So if you're caught up to speed in what I teach and you're part of this community, we can go deeper together and makes my life more fun. So make sure that you come and learn from me personally in LA, December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And likewise, that you get inside that free course right now. I'd recommend that you even jump off this live and get in there right now. And yes, BSKA, this is really live. Rodrigo Meyer, glad to be sharing this live moment with you from Argentina as well. So yes, it is live, okay? Now, going from there, let's go deeper. What is it that we're talking about today? How to get outside your head. What are the single most important distinctions in all of personal growth? And let me tell you a little bit more about the story. So that was me back when I was 22, 23, and I had been so deeply trapped inside my head. It had been decades just trapped inside my head. And so anytime that I'd be interacting with somebody socially, I would have been continually saying to myself, do I look cool? How do I make myself look cool? How do I get their approval? How can I come out on top of this situation? Am I being insulted? And so on and so forth. Constantly trapped inside my head. And being trapped inside my head, the result of that was that I was very, very, very stifled. Now, you might have seen demonstrations that I do where I bring people up on stage. Let's say I bring you up on stage. And I say, yell as loud as you can. I say, go, eh, and then you say, okay, I'll do it. And then you're like, eh, and you don't actually do it. Why is it that most people who I bring up on stage believe that they're actually projecting and are not? Well, that is happening specifically because they are trapped inside their head. Funny how that works, isn't it? Trapped inside the mind. Now, this is very, very important because the place that you're being attacked is inside your head. Okay, you're being attacked inside your head. How would I break that down? Well, for example, some people that are trapped inside their head have actually been traumatized from when they're younger. So let's say that your parents abused you, or let's say that other kids at your school abused you. Well, what we can often do and this is very, very sad, is that we can carry with us introjects in our minds of these people. And it's as if these people are talking badly at us for the rest of our lives. For example, if your parents talk badly on you, and you have this introject concept, this introject of your parent inside the mind, and it is screaming at you and telling you that you're trash. So if you're somebody who's traumatized, actually, until you heal this, for the rest of your life, you actually have inner voices inside your head that are attacking you. So that would be a simple example. Now, that needs to be healed, okay? We can't just say, get outside your head and the problem goes away, because you're not always gonna be outside your head. But as a short-term Band-Aid solution, which people will say, well, you don't wanna have a short-term Band-Aid solution. Well, I mean, do you wanna have to go to years of therapy, in order to just go out to a bar, club, and socialize? Like, you should probably also do that. But it doesn't mean you can't start getting some results today as well. So if you wanna start getting results right now, get outside your head. And all of a sudden, you can't be attacked, okay? I've experienced this where, we've been misrepresented in the media, and we've got a lot of people bashing us and trashing us, or I might have had people that are really, really trustworthy in my life that I viewed as family, and then all of a sudden they kind of flip on me and they've been kind of giving me a hard time, and I'm just like, geez, this is so intense. And this, this is somebody who I've, been vulnerable with and allowed into my mind, and then all of a sudden, they've flipped their opinion, and they've probably done so for some selfish benefit, but that's kind of in my head and it's bothering me. And then maybe I've got to go do, a night out with my friends, and I don't want to just be trapped inside my head hearing little voices attacking me. Or maybe I've got to go do a public speaking event. I've done public speaking events for thousands of people that have flown in, and they expect to see something absolutely spectacular, and I can't be sitting there getting attacked inside my brain and having my confidence getting shattered. I've got to be outside my head. I've got to be having fun. So I've just learned this over time, that it's actually safer outside your head, in the same way that it's safer to be punching through the wall, okay? So when you punch at the wall, you're in danger. When you punch through the wall, if you knew what you're doing, in martial arts, then it is safe, because your hand is going to be safe. When you punch at the wall, you're probably going to break your hand. So that would be a major reason to learn how to get outside your head. Now, funny enough, as I did this when I was younger, I found that it was something that created actually a lot of euphoria. So it gives you this weird euphoric buzz, and it winds up putting you in a good mood almost all the time. And what winds up happening, and this is for better or worse, but when you get outside your head, you start getting these insane social results. So, maybe you just start dating all these attractive people, and you start getting all these really cool friends. And then you start making more money. Well, now all of a sudden, even if you do get, stuck back in your head and you're thinking a lot, well, now you're thinking a lot, but you're dating some incredible people, you have some incredible friends, you're making more money, and so on and so forth. So it actually winds up becoming this upward spiral. Well, what is it that happens when all of a sudden you're dating better people, you have better friends, you're making more money? You're not going to be as inclined to get trapped in your head, because we tend to get trapped in our head when we are dissatisfied and looking for some way to resolve that dissatisfaction, right? That is why inherently being trapped in your head can come across often, not always, but often, as low status, because if you're truly happy, you're not stuck in your head trying to find the solution to something, you're present to the moment. So, I hate saying this, but this is kind of like back in high school, the cool kids are just playing football and going to parties, and then the nerdy kids are trying to solve science equations. I personally think that the nerdy kids solving science equations, I actually think that's way cooler than just playing football and doing a party. But the point being is that for a lot of those kids that are science nerds, they're not doing that by choice, like I would as an adult. They're doing that because they couldn't fit in with the popular kids, and they're dissatisfied, and now their mind is saying, compensate, 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 become good at something, add more value, gotta add more value to be accepted in society, gotta add more value to have any kind of status, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is sort of a funny thing to consider, isn't it? That is a weird one to consider. Like, I would ask you right now, as intelligent as you are, how much of your intelligence actually originally came from compensation? Like, let's say that ever since high school, you've been going to parties and you've been going on really fun dates. Let's just say that you had endless cash. To what extent do all these things that you're doing as intellectual pursuits, would you be doing them? That's a powerful question to ask, not because intellectual pursuits aren't amazing, but it's a powerful question to ask because it puts you in touch with which parts of you are authentic and which parts of you are compensation based. Some of those compensation-based parts of you actually could be awesome, by the way. But you should be aware of that. So anything that's trapping you in your head is basically putting you in this weird place of dissatisfaction and compensation. Anything that gets you outside your head makes you feel happy with the moment and being who you are naturally, okay? But it's funny how that one simple distinction of like being in your head or out of your head winds up being this giant game changer for everything, right? It's like one person goes out to a bar club, they're trapped in their head, they're trying too hard to control everything, and then they just are the biggest loser in the whole club and they go home destroyed. The other person just stops caring, starts expressing freely and gets out of their head, and they wind up having fun with everybody. They're messing around with everybody. They throw some huge after party at their crib. Everybody likes them, and one thing leads to another, and it's just ridiculous, right? So it's funny, just that one distinction of getting outside your head. Again, realizing that we're trapped inside our head because we feel like we're not good enough, but then because we're stuck in our head, these little voices are often attacking us, which makes us feel less good, and it becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. Versus if you get out of your head, you start getting better results, then you have less need to be in your head, which then is a self-reinforcing cycle to be out of your head. Now, what's going to happen exactly when you're out of your head? Okay, what's going to change in you? What are you going to notice specifically? When you're out of your head, what are you going to notice? Here's what I would say to you. What's going to happen when you get outside your head is it's going to increase all this bandwidth. There's going to be this huge, huge gain in bandwidth. So basically, all that energy that you're using trapped in your mind, that is burning you into the ground. And it is very, very, very dark, okay? I'm going to just rein myself in here and try not to go too deep on how dark this can get, but it's a very, very dark energy. There's so much that I can say on this of just how many problems this can cause. But anyway, so what happens is that your voice has this insane potential. Like, have you ever seen how I'm filling up a room of 500 people and I'm not using speakers when I'm doing public speaking? That's not some vocal technique. It's 10% vocal technique. It's 90% me just not being in my head. If I'm in my head, what's happening is I've got those little introjects attacking me, and I've got these loops that are going unnecessarily, and then that's sucking up my energy. But if I just get out of my head, then nothing is parasiting me anymore. And as a result of that, my energy explodes, and then my voice explodes. So everybody's looking for some kind of a technique, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to find this technique of how do I stay trapped inside my head, but then have loud vocal projection like you? Well, I can learn a technique, right? Or it's like, maybe they see me go to a bar club and I talk to everybody. And they say, what's the technique that you could just talk and talk and talk and talk? And I'm like, what you're really saying is, how do I stay stuck inside my head in my comfort zone of hell? How do I stay in the comfort zone of hell, trapped inside my head, but then talk and talk and talk? Should I memorize 10 hours of things from the internet? What is the formula to be trapped in my head, but somehow, some way, still be able to talk and talk? You see what I'm saying here? This exact same thing could also be said for many different things, like vitality. How do I have energy like you, but stay trapped inside my head? Oh, I need to take a lot of caffeine, right? If you're trapped inside your head, you need a lot. And look, I'll do a little bit of tea here and there. I like green tea. Green Gyokoru tea is a beautiful tea. I like white silver needle tea. It's a beautiful tea. Occasionally I'll do like acai white teas, things like that. I'll use those here or there for a little extra firepower. But generally speaking, I don't use them. And the reason why I don't need caffeine is because when you're outside your head, you're not being energetically parasited. And as a result of that, you have surges and surges of energy. And this winds up becoming this really frustrating thing for me because people who I work with in general, they will tend to try to make excuses for the fact that they struggle to keep pace with my energy levels. And they try to frame it like I'm some kind of cartoon character, like, well, that's just Owen. He's just, you're just like that, bro. Like, not everybody could be like that. And I'm like, just get out of your freaking head. And they're like, yeah, but and I'm like, you're trapped in your head. You're stuck in your ego. You've got parasites inside of you. You just get into the flow state. Okay, read the Tao Te Ching, read the Bible, read the Power of Now. Get into the flow. Read the Bhagavad Gita. Get into a flow state. Then you can do the same thing. You're just being lazy. It's almost like somebody saying, my room is messy because it just randomly got messy. If your energy is low, That's because you allowed it to get low, because you stayed trapped inside your head, and you allowed little weird demonic voices to just freaking yell at you, and as the demon voices are yelling at you, and then you're trapped in loops inside your mind, and you're having to disarm those loops, and you're overanalyzing how people are thinking of you, and you're caring about what people are thinking of you, then you're trying to micromanage different perceptions, then you're questioning how that went, and then this is looping and looping and looping and looping and looping. There is so much that's happening, you have no chance at elite level performance at all. So of course you're just gonna be looking for some kind of technique in order to survive, right? If you're at a bar or club and you're trapped in your mind, of course you need little scripts from the internet to be able to talk to people. Of course you do, because you're trapped inside your mind and you're looking to compensate for the fact that you're trapped. So that's how you want to think about this, okay? You've got to realize that you've got to be fixing these energetic kinks. Now, I was saying that I feel that this is like a very, very important thing to understand as well for many other reasons, okay? There's actually a lot of different reasons why we can understand the importance of getting outside of our head. The number one thing that I would say is that we have to be able to have access to a transcendent state without drugs or ego, right? So the idea of drugs in general, drugs are very, very appealing for people that are trapped inside their mind because it's a way out of their mind, right? Or people who drink alcohol. Alcohol is very, very appealing when you're carrying a lot of heavy energy. You've got those little introjects screaming at you, telling you that you suck inside your brain, negative inner self-talk, negative little demonoids running inside your head, all sorts of loops that are running inside your head, all sorts of over-analysis. And that over-analysis, what is probably gonna be, it's gonna be something like this. The over-analysis is gonna be, can I control this situation? How do I control this situation? I need control. Then it's gonna be like, I gotta get approval. How do I get approval? I love approval. Then it's gonna be like, am I safe? I don't know if I'm safe. Am I safe? Then it's gonna be, what's gonna happen? I don't know what's gonna happen. What do I think of this? Then it's gonna be you attacking yourself. Like, oh, I think I did this wrong, I suck. Then it's gonna be these different attachments that you have. These different things that you need in order to feel present to the moment, right? And so because this is looping inside the mind, then you reach for some kind of poison that it's like a light level poison, intoxicant, that basically hurts your brain, like puts Swiss cheese holes in your brain, but slows down those loops, and then basically serves the function of getting you outside your head, but it gets you outside your head in a dirty way. It's very, very dirty. So I've coached a lot of people to get off drugs, I've coached a lot of people to get off alcohol, and what they'll always report 100% of the time is that while they're not gonna get these like really like ridiculous over the top hallucinations or this like, like your brain just being overclocked with dopamine or serotonin to the point that you're frying it and cooking it because you've overclocked it, like as if you take a car and you overclocked it and you're blowing the engine. While you're not gonna get that, you're gonna get a clean euphoria, a clean buzz, a clean high. And that clean high is more meaningful and fulfilling and satisfying and ever present than anything that you can get from outside yourself. So you've got to be able to self-generate access to transcendent states like that so that you're not gonna be inclined to poison your brain and to poison your body, okay? And this is very, very important. And there's a lot of other spiritual consequences to using drugs and alcohol that I'm not even gonna delve into here. I mean, I might later, I might be tempted, but I'm not even gonna get into that. So this is more important than you can ever imagine. You've got to be able to access this. Now, what you'll also see is that people are continually using ego gratification and egoic defenses. So in other words, people will use things to avoid feeling wrong. Some of those things that people will use to avoid feeling wrong, I would say would be like projection. What do I mean by projection? Projection is where you did something wrong, but then you feel like you've got to blame somebody else for the exact thing that you did. That's a very, very common thing. Right? You'll see people that don't have a high sense of self-confidence. They'll be doing something wrong, and then they'll accuse you of the exact thing that they're doing. Or they will have a negative belief, like say that they're an unloving person, they'll say that you're an unloving person. Or say that there's somebody who's narcissistic, they'll say that you're narcissistic. Or let's say that there's somebody who's selfish, they'll say that you're selfish. They're doing that because they can't handle how they feel about themselves because their inner self-talk is so negative. And so as a result, they use something called projection. And then they accuse you of the exact same thing that they're doing. What is bad about this? What's bad about this is that they're never going to be able to fix those character flaws that they have. They're never going to be able to recognize them because they're so utterly painful. They're attacking them, or they would attack themselves for it so utterly bad that they need to project it out. Well, imagine that your very most toxic qualities you're now accusing other people of having. You probably don't think that you're doing this, but a lot of people use projection. Another one that people use is devaluation. So rather than saying, okay, this person's amazing, I can learn from them, they try to take them off the pedestal and they say, oh, no, there's nothing good about this person. I'm gonna devalue them and I'm gonna demonize them so that I can feel better by comparison. Why is that done? Again, it's all dopamine preservation. It's the person desperately trying to not be trapped inside this weird thing in their mind in order to get it more dopamine. Well, now all of a sudden what you've done is you've cut yourself off from any kind of self-reflection of your own worst qualities so that you can learn from them and fix them. You've cut yourself off from the ability to learn from other people. And then what you've got to do now is you've got to live in this weird world where you're accusing other people of things that you're doing. You are cutting other people down continually. And then you're just doing this to be able to keep yourself in some kind of state of equilibrium, which if you just learn to access a transcendent state on your own, you wouldn't have to do any of this. So you're basically like this weird puppet that has a parasite inside your brain that is just craving emotional regulation. And you're so emotionally dysregulated from being trapped inside the mind that now all of a sudden your life is basically you as this sort of witness of this weird, like you're in this kind of sunken place as you watch this parasite living out your life, and you're not even in control of what it is that you're doing. And then you start alienating some of the people who are the most important in your life, people that are trying to help you. You alienate them. You're alienating people that are trying to help you with a little bit of feedback because they care enough about you to give it to you. And you're just pushing away the best people who you could also learn from. And you're a puppet and you're in a weird sunken place and you've got a parasite right in your brain, all because you couldn't get outside your head. Think about this. It gets pretty crazy, right? And the same thing goes on with everything from being traumatized from when you're younger. And I think that has to be resolved and probably needs therapy in many cases. But again, the more that you live inside your head, the more that can attack you. And this really just goes for absolutely everything. I had a video that I put out recently about my buddy who's an incredible guy, and his wife of 6 years cheated on him and walked out on him. And what do you think is going to be the single most important thing that he does after his wife left him? It's going to be getting into his body, getting outside his head. And what that means for him in his case is that after what he's gone through, he should be working out. He likes to ride his bike. He's going to be doing bike rides all around Miami. He's going to be going to the gym more regularly. He's got to go out to bars and clubs and get into a high social momentum state and go party and get outside his head, okay? So I've talked to you in great detail about what it means to, or the importance rather, of getting outside your head. What are some different ways that we can actually effectively get outside our head? Well, what I'd say is that there's a number of different ways, okay? There's a number of different ways. So one of them that's very, very simple with socializing. Oh, and by the way, before we even jump into this, if you're just getting onto the live right now, the final free event for a long time is going to be in Los Angeles this weekend. You should fly in for it. December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We're going to be teaching you how to make more cash, how to get way better socially, how to get tapped in, and it's the most OG content. It's so incredibly hardcore when you come out in person and learn from it. The energy in the room is incredible. You've got an incredible mastermind group there. You're meeting me personally. You're going to shake my hand personally. Probably going to bump into me in the bathroom, okay? It's like everybody's there. We're all hanging out with each other. You're going to make incredible lifelong friends. It's such an incredible event to attend live. Make sure that you get here for LA. If you're seeing this in the future, see if we have any other events. We travel all the time, all over the country, but we're not traveling anytime soon, so make it into LA. And likewise, if you just got on this, the free course, higherpurposeprogram.com is the best content that we do not post on social media. If you want to go behind the scenes and get a blast from the past, you get in there to higherpurposeprogram.com and you're going to love that program, okay? It's laid out, it's all organized, it's mind-blowing. I get compliments on it all the time. All right, let's keep going. But when I say, okay, actually, before I keep going, I feel like when I say that, it's like some weird ad, which I guess it is. Actually fly in, okay? It's not just me, burning down the clock. Actually fly into LA, like go to Expedia.com or some flight booking website. I double dog dare you to do this. And just pop in. Just make it real. Come meet me. I dare you to do it. And then no matter what you do, okay, get into Higher Purpose Program. Like if you're watching this now and I failed to inspire you to get inside Higher Purpose Program, whatever it is that I taught you here has failed, because you've got to have that much trust in this process to go follow these basic directives, okay? HigherPurposeProgram.com, incredibly valuable program, very, very laid out, not off the cuff like what I'm doing here. It is laid out. It's a different type of learning. It's gonna change your life. Make sure, okay, I made this for you so you can go deeper with our knowledge here together. So HigherPurposeProgram.com, completely for free. Hop in there and try to fly it as well this weekend for Los Angeles. If you're seeing this in the future, go to selfhelpfreetour.com and see what other programs it is that we offer, okay? Now, let's go into, okay, and do it, okay? Actually do it. So let's go in now to instructions. So one of the ways that you can get outside your head is called take so much action, you shut down the thinking mind, okay? Take so much action, you shut down the thinking mind. So a simple example would be, let's say that I'm out socializing. If I stay there in a corner and I'm just like waiting to get outside my head naturally, well, what's gonna wind up happening? It's never gonna happen. So if I make a very, very low criteria mission for myself, and I say, I'm just gonna go talk to everybody. I'm gonna minimize time in between interactions, just chat with everybody. Well, what's gonna wind up happening is the action itself is gonna let me get outside my head, okay? Like for example, when I walk into the seminar, I start to get really, really good after about 20 minutes, because for the first 20 minutes, you know, I'm still a little bit inside of the you know, the calculations and calculus of the day. But once I'm speaking for 20, 30 minutes, I've forgotten about all that, and it gets amazing, right? It's like in physical intimacy, you know, when you're first starting off, you know, kind of fooling around a little bit, that's different than later as, you know, repeated motion, repeated sound becomes hypnotic. That's when the euphoria happens, okay? So the beginning is just taking so much action that it shuts down the thinking mind, right? Think of physical intimacy, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. It starts to hypnotize you. So you want to think of getting outside your head as a self-hypnosis, and to be a master at this, you're basically a master at hypnotizing yourself. And one of the best ways to hypnotize yourself is just take so much action, it shuts down the thinking mind. It's just one of the very, very best ways to do it. Okay? Now, from there, another way is called meditation. What is meditation? Don't think about the past. Don't think about the future. Rest your awareness right on the present moment. Now, what you're going to notice, you're going to start having thoughts. When that happens, don't fight it. Just keep releasing them, and then do this for about 20 minutes a day. It's going to allow you to get very, very present. Another thing would be taking things like Eastern herbs or eating very, very healthy. What does that do? That also can bolster the brain neurotransmitters that you need in order to help you to be present to the moment. Another one is just believing that you're enough. It's that belief that you're not enough, your basic level belief system, thinking that you're not enough, that traps you in the mind and makes you think that you need to keep compensating. So you may also need to be considering why it is that you have people-pleasing tendencies. Why do you care so much what people think of you? Why do you need their validation? Why do you need their supply of external validation? What you want to do is, rather than relying on an external supply of validation to be present to the moment, train yourself to love the process itself. Train yourself to be in a meditative state. Train yourself to hypnotize your mind. And then this gets rid of that weird addiction or prison of requiring validation, okay? Incredibly, incredibly, incredibly important. Another one is laughter, just humor. So let's think about these things, right? You're an avid meditator, you're joking and laughing, you're enjoying the process itself, you're taking action, you're hypnotizing yourself to just be in that rhythm. What's gonna happen? You're gonna naturally get outside the mind, okay? And over time, what's gonna happen, like I said, is that your success is actually gonna increase and increase and increase. You're going to make more money, I believe. You're going to get more social success, I believe. You're going to be more tapped in. And so as a result of this, your life's gonna get better. Well, as your life is getting better, you're not gonna naturally be trapped inside the head as much, because again, like a nerd looking to, say, compensate, saying to yourself that you're dissatisfied, that's not working. Instead, what's gonna wind up happening is you feel good, and you're gonna naturally be outside your head. And then the ultimate destination for this is not to become some person that never has a thought again. I think about things constantly. But it's to become somebody who's not trapped in compulsive thought. So I want to get you out of compulsive thought And I want to get you into self-directed thought. I want to get it to where, if there's a horse and a wagon, you don't want the horses just running amok. You want to get it where the driver has control over the horses. You don't want to have it where the horses are just dragging you around wherever you want. And when you're trapped inside your head, the problem with it is that you're feeding that energy over and over and over. And it's basically just getting you to a point where the horses are just going crazy, okay? Now, here's the last thing I'm going to say about this. How far in are we right now? Cool. So I'd say this is probably the last important thing, although sometimes my last thing becomes another hour, but I'm going to aim for it to be the last thing. I'm trying to save my energy today. I'm trying to keep it low key today because we're about to go do this totally crazy event here in LA. So the big thing that I want to explain to you here is I want you to stop and think about just the sheer cost of not getting this down. Okay, just think about the sheer cost of this. And think about what your life would look like, at the highest level. So the cost is like what I talked about. Being trapped in your ego, projecting your worst thoughts on people, having to cut other people down, having to take all these crazy freaking drugs that fry your brain, et cetera, right? That's the cost. But the flip side is that being like the hell on earth, what does the heaven on earth look like? This is what I noticed over time. As I got better socially, let's say that I go out to a bar club, what I found was the simple commonality was that I could walk up to somebody who would normally intimidate me, and I would just look at them in the eye and I wouldn't even think. That was the thing that I saw was the big game changer for me. That was the big game changer. It's when I would just go talk to somebody and I wasn't really overthinking it. That doesn't mean that everybody's going to like me. I'm not trying to make them like me. But what it meant was that I was choosing for my life to be easy. Now, when you're somebody who stays present when you're talking to people, that gives them the chance to maybe want to jump through a couple of your hoops. It gives them the opportunity, if they want, that's up to them. They choose that, not you. But that gives them the opportunity to invest into you. So I could remember when I was younger, I'd be talking to somebody, I'd be out at a bar, and if I would run out of things to say, I would jump into my mind and I would start thinking, how do I fill up the space? How do I fill up the space? But over time, I realized that you just make a vacuum. Now, making a conversational vacuum shouldn't be used as a technique, like you start staring at people all the time, just trying to make a vacuum to get a result. But when it's done naturally and organically, then the way that vacuum works is that you're just relaxed. You're not thinking, you're not it's not a technique. Again, if it's a technique, that's as weird as memorizing scripts. But a vacuum is something that happens naturally when you're comfortable in your own skin and you're adding to the conversation and you're contributing to it and it's flowing, but you're not forcing it. And when somebody can see that you're not forcing it, they realize that you don't need them. And when they realize that you don't need them, they realize that you're somebody who's satisfied within yourself. And when you're somebody who's satisfied within yourself, you're probably somebody who's very successful. And when you're somebody who's very successful, you're probably somebody that they want to know. So as a result of that, they become curious and then they start contributing. Then funny enough, they often go into their head, which then makes them get kind of clingy and needy. Even though that's not even your intention. Actually, your intention is to add to them. But it's just something funny because then they start investing and then they tend to value your attention more. So notice that you did less, but life got easier. And it's the same thing with making money. I've seen this exact same thing in making money to where people that are trapped inside their mind and they tend to be connected to all these little introjects in the mind that are attacking them and negative self-talk and all these loops and things like that I've described that are dragging you down. They tend to be connected to that. But people that I see that make the most money tend to be more outside their head. And they're like, okay, well, there's really only like 5 or 10 things that actually make a lot of money. And then everything else is just this giant waste of time. So why don't we just do those 5 or 10 things that make the millions of dollars and forget about all the stuff that wastes time, and then we'll be good, right? Like if somebody's sitting there looking at, say, TikTok for hours and hours a day, why is that? Is that because they're independently accessing a transcendent state? No, right? It's because what they're doing is that they're trapped in the mind, and it's so heavy for you that you need to look at social media to get a little burst of dopamine. Think about that for a minute even, that most of society is so trapped inside their mind that stupid apps like TikTok, which can have good content, but largely are stupid, are able to exist and become the most incredibly successful companies because people are so trapped in the mind that they need a dopamine spike. They can't even self-generate a drop of dopamine because they're dissatisfied in life, they're attacking themselves, they're way down in loops, and they're trapped inside their head. So you can see how important it is to not be in that kind of a space. If you want to be somebody that makes millions of dollars, it's not about looping and looping and looping in this like TikTok consciousness. Rather, it's about being present to the moment, rapidly identifying the 5 or 10 things that are actually going to be effective, and then deploying them quickly. That's what it comes down to. It comes to immediate deployment, speed of execution, speed of implementation, just doing the right thing, and then stacking it and scaling it. That's what making a lot of money requires in my experience. So in my experience, people who make a lot of money are very, very good at keeping things simple, executing, and just getting it done and producing results. People that are trapped inside the mind, they often live in this world of pain. It's a deep world of pain, a world where they think, people who I've been around that are very trapped in their head are often believe that they're unloved, believe that other people have bad intentions towards them, are paranoid, believe they're being lied to. You take them on a vacation and they're going to be chronic complainers. They can't enjoy the vacation. You take them to a nice dinner and they're complaining about the waiter or something like that. You take them skiing, they're complaining about the person at the lift, demanded that they wear a mask or something, and they're talking about it 2 hours later, even though it's annoying that the person did that. It's like, who cares? Let's just ski, right? So it's one of these things where it's like they can't just let the wind land. And so that's why if you actually pull somebody who hasn't perhaps earned money and you pull them into money and you bring them into that kind of environment, they will often self-sabotage. Because see, to be in a beautiful environment, okay, to be, let's say you're up at a mansion, you've got a beautiful car, you've got beautiful food in your home, beautiful jewelry, beautiful family, beautiful friends, and you live in abundance. There's a state of consciousness that you've often had to achieve to get to that point. So you're an energetic match for that lifestyle. But if you haven't had to build that yourself and you get pulled into that, you probably have all sorts of addictions to the things that feed the emotional dysregulation, the things that trap you inside the mind. You have an addiction to that. And so the problem is that if you come into an environment that doesn't have a lot of problems in it and has a lot of prosperity, you will begin to manufacture problems. How are you going to manufacture problems? Maybe you're going to create interpersonal problems. You don't love me. You don't care about me. Things that are subjective, things that have no goalpost, things that can't even be objectively assessed. And you could just keep putting your opinion on it and never be ultimately proven wrong. And you'll choose those things specifically because you're trapped inside your head, okay? So you can see the kind of consequences that this has if you allowed yourself, to be in that kind of a mode. And you can see the urgency to get out of that mode and to see the urgency of realizing that real success is not about learning every little technique of what to say socially. Real success is not about, needing to be in TikTok consciousness and think of a million different things. Rather, it's about just figuring out the 5 or base 10 most powerful, most impactful things, which are usually sitting right in front of your face. If you would just take the time to observe them, getting those down, deploying them, and then reaping the benefit, okay? And that is what real social success is all about. That's what real financial success is all about. And it's also what real spiritual success is all about. And you'll notice that in all the great spiritual texts, there's this continual signpost saying, hey, wake up, get present. And even spiritually, if you want to enjoy God's creation, that's very, very difficult to enjoy from being trapped inside the mind. And that is why even going into nature requires us, if we really want to enjoy it, to get outside the mind, to connect to nature, and to connect to God's creation. And then that actually, again, winds up being the ultimate upward spiral. Because what happens is that is so incredibly beautiful and is so incredibly rewarding to see the beautiful creations around us all the time. We can see them in cities too, that we want to be even more and more outside our head. Then at that point, we can still think and go inside our head when we want to, but that time is spent constructively. And otherwise, we're in a state of flow, that Tao Te Ching, that Holy Spirit, that power of now, right? In the Bhagavad Gita, that process, that commitment to the process, not the fruit, like you'd see spoken about in various holy texts, that beautiful, beautiful life spent in that state of flow, not trapped in this fiction of the mind, this self-created hell, inside of self-generated resistance that you're actually manufacturing, having to fight through in order to live on a hell on earth. But rather you live in something that is closer, maybe not exactly like, but closer to a heaven on earth in a flow state. Things are unfolding for you. You feel incredible gratitude. You're not in a state of discontent where you're trapped in the mind, but you feel gratitude draws your thoughts out of the mind into the world. It's very, very beautiful. And that's the kind of state that I aim to do my seminars in. So if you're going to be coming to meet me in Los Angeles this weekend, December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, If you're seeing this in the future, we're going to be doing these all around the country. Probably, I don't know, it's going to be much later in the year, but we'll probably wind up coming to maybe even to your town, okay, later in the year. But this is going to be our last one for quite a while. And this is the 3-day one, which is the long one. It's kind of like us doing a Free World Summit. So make sure that you fly in, okay? Actually go do that. I'm excited to meet you in person. And no matter what, as a no-brainer, higher purpose program right here. If 10 or 15K people watch this, I want to see 10 or 15K new people jump in the higher purpose program this week, okay? It's totally, totally life-changing, totally, totally fun, highly structured, and it's going to give you a lot of very, very powerful tools to do the exact things that we're talking about here, but in an even more raw and rugged format. So anyway, with that said, allow your mind to still. Take a deep breath. I love you very much. Get present. I'll be back with more soon. Love you very much. Peace.